Welcome back to This Week in Indies. It's been a tumultuous time in our current events, to say the least. But all the while, within these ups and downs, fiction has been a reflective and predictive method of conveying human history. Though through these trials and tribulations, do we as storytellers garner some responsibility to be authentic and accurate. But beyond the reporting aspect, how much do these current events actually affect us internally and externally as artists? We will discuss. Then C.L. Cannon will be along with indie books you might enjoy if you're a fan of Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. Then finally, we bring you what's going on with our programming within the Go Indie Minute. So here's some history we are sure doomed to repeat as we bring you another This Week in Indies with your host, Joe Compton. Hello, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, however you are. I hope you're doing well, and welcome to This Week in Indies. I am your host, Joe Compton, and I'm really excited to be here on what is technically the last show panel discussion show of the mid-season for us. We do have another show to go, but you won't see these lovely faces that you see today. Well, you'll see two of these lovely faces. Well, two faces. I don't know. Lovely is the accurate acronym for that. But nonetheless, we're very
so
happy.
Not me.
Right? Yeah. You, Brian, and Ben are going to be fine. You guys are lovely. Sean and I will have to just carry the mantle of loveliness for next week. But yeah, it's all good. I'm real excited to have this show and have all of you here. Nita's here. Sean punching the fourth wall, and then we, send a star, and you got a little bit more time to go. As this is an opportunity to let everybody know how much you appreciate Going In now by sending us a star and getting entered into the little prize package that I am currently putting together not as we're talking, but before we were talking. Oh, I moved it. Sean, stop fucking around.
Yeah, I was going to say, come on, man. That wasn't written by me.
Try to be a helper.
All right. Before we get started, let's have everybody introduce themselves, and we'll start with the evil helper himself.
I'm S.M. Hillman, professionally. Sean Hillman. I'm a speculative fiction writer. And you can find me here doing Zero Means You're Dead or Hit the Dice, which are RPG-related content. Or, as if you were here last week, you know that I occasionally host This Week in Indies. And sometimes, like today, I get to be a panelist. So,
Nice.
Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you, sir. All right, Mr. Shankman.
Hi, folks. I'm Ben Shankman, urban fantasy author and audiobook narrator, and you can find me at benshankman.com.
Awesome. Mr. Brian Tan.
I'm Brian Tan. I'm the co-host of Saving You a Seat and Work in the Indies. I am a fiction author and exercise enthusiast, and that guy that will probably say something wildly inappropriate, but in a funny way.
Awesome. All right, Juliet.
Yeah, so I'm Juliet Rose. I am an author, an editor, a publisher. I host the First Time for Everything, and in my day job, I'm a librarian.
Awesome. All right. I just want to put out there right now to anybody who's watching, anybody who will watch this later. Spoiler alert, we may get a little political today, and you're just going to have to deal with it. It's just how it's going to roll. That's what we're talking about today, current events and utilizing it in our writing. So I want to start the conversation by asking, I want to talk twofold about this. First, I want to talk about the writing aspect as the technical aspect of writing current events and history and things of that nature. But then I would like to tackle a little bit later on for us personally, how it affects us and how we as writers and artists deal with that effect. So let's start by talking a little bit about writing current events. How much are you paying attention? How much do you try to sprinkle in some history into what you write, and how important is it for you to seek authenticity and accuracy within that aspect of how you write those things? Whoever wants to jump in, I don't care.
I mean, I try not to use real names, but I base characters on people's mannerisms and things of that nature. So of course I try to be relatively accurate enough so you get the gist of who I'm dealing with without having to be so accurate that I don't have to go swimming in the vile, disgusting waste that is a particular human being whom, if they fell into a volcano, would probably pollute the Earth's crust and cause it to explode into a black hole.
Fair enough. I guess.
Situationally versus a specific person. So I look at like current events, what's going on, or what I think might happen. So like, in say for example, expectation of pain, it was what would happen if this happens, which is happening. And so it was dystopian. It isn't anymore, just is. But yeah, I definitely, I'm very aware of current events. It's something I keep on top of, and yeah, we'll definitely talk about the mental side of that later. But yeah, I think it's really important to weave it in. To my stories, I can't speak for anybody else because I know there is that escapism. Some people they need to step away from the current events, and they want to not read anything that might have to do with it. But for me personally, I feel like it's my responsibility to address those things within my writing.
Yeah, I agree with the need to represent things. Not in my current published series, though I definitely do the same as Brian in that real people and real personalities are going to pop up in my various works. But in one of the 2 finished manuscripts that I haven't published yet, I inserted a particular brand of politician that I needed to work through some feelings about and represent in my work. And it was very important to me because I felt like I almost couldn't write if I didn't somehow address those feelings and events that were going on. And one thing I'll also say is that I am one of the people who believes that writing is inherently political and you can't separate the art from the artist. And at this point in the state of the world, if you're writing pure escapism, fine. But it's on us to be authentic in how we show up as artists and kind of present where we stand in a lot of things. So that's definitely part of my writing.
I'm going to follow up with a little bit of what Ben just mentioned. When I was first started out, I was not going to make any social or political commentary in my writing. So this is about 18 years old. And that went for about 6 months, and I hated it. I hated everything about the writing I'd done. And I was like, obviously, it's going to be impossible not to do that. So I agree. Writing is inherently social and political commentary. For me, as something of an amateur historian, it's interesting to see how things that happened before are happening again, or maybe they've never really stopped happening, right? And so it's important, not just when I write, to make those political statements, however subtle or gross they might be, but also to try to give a bit of a historical perspective. I don't know that I always particularly get that, but it's something I strive towards. And I think that I'm not that afraid. I don't know that I would ever what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know that I would ever give someone who's politically or socially recidivist behavior by naming them directly. But certainly, I think that anything I do write, if in that vein, you'll know who I'm talking about, right? So, yeah, that's kind of how I handle it.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, go ahead.
No, I definitely want to piggyback. I think that the arts, I think that like journalism, the arts sort of have a duty to society to reflect on what's going on. And I remember, if anyone's old enough to remember the miniseries, The Jacksons, The American Dream, and they were sort of doing a sort of refresher with the Jackson brothers, and Marlon said, if anyone asks us for politics, just say we're just entertainers. And that's always been sort of the safe aspect of any artist. Hey, I'm just an entertainer. And, you know, you hear people now saying, oh, you know, in the case of LeBron James, shut up and dribble. Colin Kaepernick, shut up and play. Any musician, just shut up, entertain me. The thing is what people don't seem to understand is that as long as these people agree with these people that say that, they have no issue with the people that agree with them politically, socially, whatever. It's a matter of, and it's always been like that. You know, people want to hear people speak when they agree with them. Nobody ever wants to hear a dissenting voice. And I think that's why no matter what you believe in socially, politically, religiously, if you're a creator, you're almost obligated to share that, whether people agree with it or not. It's not the belief and the feeling and the idea that I think people are afraid of. It's the backlash that comes with it, you know, and there's some people that are okay with it. You know, J.K. Rowling, whether you agree with her or not, that's the hill she stands on, and that's the hill she believes in. And while I don't agree with what she said, I at least can say, hey, at least you're willing to stand by it. You're not, I would respect someone more if they speak their opinion and stand by it than those people that just go with the way the wind blows. And there's a big difference between going where the wind blows and, I guess, in a way, opening up their mind to an alternate viewpoint.
Can I ask a question on that point, Brian?
Sure.
Do you believe that if she had that stance or had made that stance public before Harry Potter would be as big as it is now?
Yes and no, because Harry Potter is also a tale of inclusivity. You see when the racism in Harry Potter kicks in, I mean, people crap on those characters. So I think there's a lot of people that would be extremely confused. But in that regard, I think that maybe a lot of people, it probably wouldn't be the global phenomenon that it is today. It would still have its audience. Okay. But it would also be a lot of people that would still be calling her out for being contradictory. And, well, this is what you write about, but this is what you're, you know, denying people based on what you call blood purity, i.e., you know, bigotry, racism by whatever. It's the same thing as you choosing not to recognize people that are trans. It's the same. It's a different side of the same coin. So I don't think that it would be as popular as it is, but you would still have her having to answer questions.
Because that's where most people struggle, right? They try to separate the artist from the viewpoint, and you know, and I think that's where that is, because it's so popular and it's shaped so many young people's lives.
It's tough for me because I mean, look, I was one of those people that hated Harry Potter when it was so popular. I hated it. And then when I read the first book, this was right before Half-Blood Prince came out. I read all 5 books in between that time that Half-Blood Prince came out, and then I read Half-Blood Prince. So, I mean, it's tough for me to deal with as well. Mm-hmm. But I've always said that I will always at least respect an out bigot than someone that double speaks.
Let me jump in and get super political for a second, because obviously that's what this episode's going to be. I don't feel we don't have to respect bigots. There's a difference between having a different opinion and a different political ideology and rejecting basic human rights. And I don't feel like people who are standing on their platform of openly rejecting human and civil rights get to stand on the same platform and we say, well, at least we respect them for being honest. So Brian, I get where you're coming from, and I understand the challenge that people who have liked the properties have had. My eldest son, who is trans, has a Harry Potter tattoo that he now regrets having gotten because her ideology was not out in the open at the time. But I'll just say, I don't actually think we have to respect bigots for having a solid opinion. We just get to see who they are. And that's why when readers and reviewers say, you know what, I don't get why people care about the author's politics, is because sometimes it's not even politics. Like, politics is whether or not you believe in expanding or contracting the deficit. Human rights isn't politics.
Right.
Well, Brian even pointed out it's veiled in the series, her politics a little bit, so she is actually utilizing it in her in the way she
right.
writes.
And let me just and let me clarify. When I say that I'll respect an out bigot more than I would respect someone else, do I respect them as a person? No. I respected the fact that they're going to say what they're going to say, so I know whose ass I'm going to kick.
Fair point.
The person that's acting like they're a friend to my face, and then when my back is turned, they're stabbing me.
Yeah,
sorry,
Julia.
Sorry,
no, it's okay.
I
was going to say, I kind of agree. I also have my oldest child is trans and was a huge Harry Potter fan, so obviously felt very, I don't know what the word would be, harmed, I guess, by that. But I think I get what you're both saying, and I think what it is I would rather know a bigot's a bigot.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to respect him, but I'd rather know than have them hide it, because I would want to know so I don't support them. So I know who to watch out for.
Mm-hmm.
And my other comment was on the thing I was going to say, when we were talking about our responsibility to our stories. And the thing I wanted to say was, like, nowadays, and I went to school for journalism, and I chose not to go to school for journalism. And the reason I did was I didn't finish because I didn't want to have to remain neutral in a situation where I felt somebody needed to step in. And now when I look at journalism, it's not even that. Like, they literally don't remain neutral. They just, they're paid off by sides, and they present news that isn't true. And they do things that are, really harmful. So I think we do have an obligation in our stories for history, for future generations to understand what really was happening at this time, because that drives me crazy, because I don't want, my, great-grandchildren to think that what the news reported was true when that wasn't what was happening. So I do feel an obligation to make sure I put what's really happening in my words, even if it is fiction.
We have some good comments here. Anita said, with some authors and people, it's not politics, it's cruelty. And Oz says, exactly. And the people that say, I didn't vote for this, are full of it. They absolutely voted for this. They don't like that it is affecting them personally.
Just real quick, to kind of get back to the J.K. Rowling question. I think, so I did like a little bit of trans advocacy back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And I don't, we didn't have the term TERF back then. So I think if her opinions had been known, I don't think it would have affected the sales that much, to be honest with you. Because I don't think the larger society, obviously it means something to people who are going through that sort of thing. The larger society didn't even have language to talk about it, and didn't really care that much.
That's true.
So I think it would have been a footnote that if it wasn't brought up later in her career, people might not even know about. Right. So
that's true. I didn't even think about that. The fact that, when Harry Potter first became a thing, we just had derogatory language for people that were trans and whatnot. It took me bouncing in a gay bar to understand, trans people and even LGBTQ. Like my younger brother was gay, but he wasn't out. So it took me being around other people and having my own fears and my traumas that I had to face. So yeah, that's definitely a good point.
I wanted to I had the next question I had actually Sean addressed a little bit, which is great. You guys, I know I have an awesome panel when you guys are answering my questions ahead of time. But there is a certain adage that history repeats itself, right? And that we constantly don't learn from our own mistakes, and that, you know, so as someone who would be writing about current events and putting things out there, is there a way in which you can convey that so that it doesn't, or do you feel like it doesn't matter, just putting the event in there is good enough, and whatever's going to happen you can't control, so if it reciprocates and it becomes history repeats itself, it's the way it is? Or do you feel like there is a way in which we can write these events into our stories and make it clear that we want the buck to stop here?
I think it depends, and it's interesting. I'll say one of the genres of author that I see sometimes using current events to make topical their historical fiction is those authors. So like if someone writes historical fiction, but they want to make social commentary about what's happening now, they will pick an event from history that most closely mirrors what's happening now and then write about it. Like if you want to go to TV and movies, like MASH was about a different war that was about the same war. And you know, in my writing, so I'm Jewish, and the book that I referenced where I'm talking about the current political climate, there's a lot of in Judaism and Jewish culture, there's a lot of you know, never again, and then never again is now, and like, hey, by the way, all the stuff that was happening before is happening again. And I agree. I think it's important to an extent to talk about how we can break cycles, but at the same time, it's tough because we are also acknowledging that it is a cycle and it's happening currently. So it's a toss up. But I definitely think the idea of how do we represent the fact that this is not the first time that this has happened, whilst at the same time acknowledging that it's completely unacceptable, it's a delicate thing. And
I'm not being morbid about this at all, but honestly, for it to repeat itself really helps you as an artist, because you can utilize that and figure it out, right? There's something to be said for solving puzzles and breaking cycles and things like that, but there's also something to be said for, if it repeats itself, hey, look, I can utilize that. And, you know, I mean, you know, 1984 is a great example of something like that, right? Where like they just utilized that an event to kind of create a dystopia and you know, keep on the train tracks a little bit of what was, you know, why this goes off the rails and becomes what it is, right? Sort of.
And I'll tell you, I still remember back in the day having conversations with white friends, because I didn't have a lot of black friends when I was young, because I always had my nose in a book and whatever. And, you know, in the mid to late 90s, you know, black kids weren't doing all that. And, but I still remember hearing a lot of the microaggressions with those white friends. And then as we got older and I would start being ready to have serious conversations, and I would always get well, that was so long ago. Why are you still harping on that? I said, it wasn't that long ago. I mean, come on, think about it. I was born in 1979. We were still fighting for civil rights, 12 years before I was friggin' born. And then now you look at where we're at now. I was watching a video this morning while I was eating breakfast, and there was a Hispanic man talking about how, in my house and in my community, we didn't believe black people when they were talking about racial profiling. And now here it is. And it's like, yeah, isn't it funny how until it happens to you, you don't give a damn? But that's human history. No one gives a damn what's happening to other people until it affects them. Like, case in point, how many of us, and I'm guilty of it as well, how many cats laughed at scenes of Revenge of the Nerds where women are watching this and like, oh my God, like, why is that funny? Until something happens. You know, I mean, case in point, and I mean, and you know, Ben, I'm sure you can chime on this point that I'm about to make. Back in the day, white was only white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. Italians weren't white. Jews weren't considered white. No one was considered white if you weren't white Anglo-Saxon Protestant. But then what happened? Civil rights era started coming about. Next thing you know, Italians are now white. Jews are now white. Irish are now white. Scottish are now white. No one gives a damn until it affects them. But there's some people that are fortunate enough that get let into the in crowd. And then once you pass a certain generation, it's like, oh, well, they're separate from us.
Yeah, it's the othering. Like the only thing we like to do more in society than hear an opinion that agrees with ours is to understand who the others are. In that, who don't we like? If you look in, I'm gonna break out Norse mythology for a second, but there's a word there. It's called Utgard, who's on the outside, and it's like I have not felt so when I grew up, and 1980 here, so I'm in the same boat as you, Brian. I was one of 2 Jewish kids in my entire town. The other one being my identical twin brother. And, it is absolutely not the same thing as growing up Black in a rural town, because that's a different experience. And I can't speak to that other than to say that what I witnessed in my own town was harder definitely than being Jewish, but nonetheless, like being on the outside, because we were not the white Christian kids. We were those weird Jewish kids. People want to know who they can put in the box, and I'll say, like, as an American Jew, it's gotten, we had this period where you really kind of felt relatively safe, all things considered, because anti-Semitism was at least outwardly on the downswing. But like these past X number of years, because I can't do the math because it's kind of awful to think about, have been like the least safe feeling in the country for being Jewish. And I can't even imagine what it is for other more visible minorities.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. Go ahead. Go ahead, Sean. I'm sorry.
I was going to say, so I grew up Catholic, and there was once upon a time in this country, and to some extent still is, because I think people still blame Catholicism for things that other Christians do. And I'm not making any apologies for the things that Catholicism do, not at all. But there was, in no way is it the same as the Jewish experience or the Black experience, but you could tell you were a weirdo. Oh, you're Catholic? And again, it wasn't nearly as bad as what other groups suffer, but there was a difference, right? There's definitely a slight othering, and that has changed a little, I think. But it's still right. People still like to make those divisions.
Look, I have no I have no balls in this game. I can't say anything about anything. I am the luckiest human being that's been born, but I will say I had the opposite, actually. I've been an atheist since I was a young child, and so I was kind of like, that was kind of like being a Satanist when I was growing up. People didn't understand what it was, right? And so it's like, oh my God, look, there's the atheist. let's give him a Bible. Let's try it. Let's try it. My aunt kept trying to take me to church and indoctrinating me in religion and things of that nature. So, but I'll shut up because I have no other thing to add to this, and I don't need to talk. You all need to talk. So.
Can I say one thing before we hear from our only woman on the panel on one thing that we've each said though? One thing that we have to do as a society, and I mean everyone has to stop doing this shit. We got to stop trying to we got to stop trying to make the point that I recognize that my experience isn't as difficult as yours. Look, all the experiences are fucked up. This isn't a competition. And that's one of the main things that we need to stop doing in this fight. We need to all, number one, recognize, look, I recognize that it sucks being Jewish sometimes because of idiots. It sucks being an atheist sometimes because of idiots. It really sucks being a woman sometimes. Me being black, it is not worse than what y'all go through because y'all are going through your own fight. Instead of us having to make sure, and I recognize that it's a way to let it be known that it's recognizing each other's pain. And I'm all for that. I am not against that. But what I'm saying is for people need to understand, look, I'm never going to say that what I go through is bad as what maybe Juliet goes through, because I've never been a woman. Does what she go through, is it worse than what I go through? It can't be, because I don't know it. Just like she can't recognize what it's like to be black. She knows her experience. Ben knows his experience. I know my experience. It hurts no matter what. Pain hurts. Emotional pain hurts. And when we start trying to put a comparison on our pain, it further divides us. We need to recognize pain is pain, and we need to be there for each other.
Yeah, and I'm actually going to say something on that, and then I'm going to have Joe repeat his question because I've already forgotten it. But so on what you're saying, and I agree, and one of the things I was thinking is, like, one thing I found is that people that are marginalized and have been through things generally are open and supportive of other marginalized groups. And that's what we need to stick to, instead of saying, well, I can't understand. You don't have to. We have to understand that we have suffered, we have been oppressed, and that our goal is to embrace each other, because then we have power against the oppressors, right? Like, we can just push back because we're larger in force, and that's what we need to do, is come together and stop worrying about the different forms of oppression, but rather that we don't want anyone to feel oppressed. And so then we come together and we stand up against that. So that was my comment on that. But Joe, what was the question?
Okay, let me. Can I just say something to that real quick, and
Sure.
then I'll answer the question. I thank you, Brian, for saying what you said. I really appreciate that. But one thing that I've come to realize is what you said earlier, which is if you're not in it, you're blind to it, or you're not experiencing it, right? Unless it affects you. But what I've learned is that if you put yourself in it, if I hang out with certain people and I just listen and not speak, there's a power to that as well. There's a certain gift that I have, that I'm able to be around so many different cultures and so many different backgrounds and so many different things. I consider that a gift, and every time that I'm around that, I want you all to know that I am with you. You know what I mean? That I can't ever mirror your experience or understand it, maybe, but I want to try. I want to be there by listening, and that's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about my pain is worse than yours or anything like that. I'm not trying to make a comparison. What I'm trying to say is this serves me to listen to this conversation.
Right.
You know?
And I understand. I know what you mean, because I know you. But there are people that try.
Yeah.
And I honestly, I just want folks to empathize with each other.
Yeah.
That's literally all I'm calling for. Maybe I get wordy, and then I get hot. I get hot in the blood. It's
why we love you, though. That's why we love you. Yeah. Juliet, my question was: history has a tendency to repeat itself. Do we have a responsibility to kind of end the cycle, or kind of is it beneficial to us to continue the flow?
Yeah, so I think on that one for me, I think there's kind of two variables, because one, are we writing it as a current event, like this is happening, or are we writing it as a warning, this could happen? So I think it's really how we approach it as a writer. I think we do need to look at history because it does repeat, clearly it's repeating itself, but it doesn't repeat itself exactly the same. And so what happens a lot of times, people think kind of like with the Never Again, they think, well, maybe not, but then it's happening to somebody else. So now it's currently brown people, that are being, locked in camps and things like that. So I think as a warning, yes, we have to say this happens, but approach it in a way that modernizes it to say this could still happen.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Let's everybody take a deep breath, and we'll do an indie connection here and kind of reset a little bit and come back. We're kind of already in part 2 of the conversation anyway, so we'll just go right to that, and we'll continue on because this is a really great conversation, really fascinating. So let's get the indie connection done, and then we'll move forward. So, and I'm not saying that to dismiss Courtney. What Courtney does is very valuable. Look, I'm just stepping all over myself today. Let's just get to the indie connection, and I'll heap a ton of praise on Courtney after it because it's a wonderful one. So here you go.
Hey guys, C.O. Cannon here from Fiction Atlas Press, bringing you another Indie Connection. And today I'd like to tell you about some indie books that you might enjoy if you're a fan of Emily Wilde's Encyclopaedia of Fairies by Heather Fawcett. The first book I have for you is called A Botanist's Guide to Parties and Poisons by Kate Kovari. London, 1923. Newly minted research assistant Saffron Everly is determined to blaze a new trail at the University College London. Both her colleagues' beliefs about women's academic inabilities and not so subtle hints that her deceased father's reputation paved her way into the botany department, she feels stymied at every turn. When she attends a dinner party for the school, she expects to engage in conversations about the university's large expedition to the Amazon. What she doesn't expect is for Mistress Henry, one of the professor's wives, to drop to the floor poisoned by an unknown toxin. Dr. Maxwell, Saffron's mentor, is the main suspect, and evidence quickly mounts. Joined by fellow researcher and potential romantic interest Alexander Ashton, Saffron uses her knowledge of botany as she explores steamy greenhouses, dark gardens, and deadly poisons to clear Maxwell's name. Will she be able to uncover the truth, or will her investigation land her on the murderer's list? The second book I have for you is called Healing Elixirs and Wicked Crows by Riley Hunt and L.S. Embers. A sleeping curse, a forgotten love, a journey through a deadly forest where magic always demands a price. For a century, Princess Rosemary has lived in the shadow of a broken kingdom, hidden away in a cottage at the edge of the Everland Woods, while her sister, the last true heir to the Sealy throne, lies trapped in an unrelenting slumber. Rosemary has spent a lifetime searching for a cure, mastering the healing arts in a world where every spell demands a sacrifice. Prince Elias, cursed son of the unseelie queen, believed Rosemary was lost to him forever. Once she was his heart. Now she doesn't even remember his name. When fate entwines their paths once more, Elias makes her a dangerous bargain. He will guide her through the cursed woods to find a mythical flower that can break any enchantment, if she, in turn, helps him. But he carries a secret more damning than his mother's bloodline. The moment she loves him again, he will have to leave her. As the journey tests the limits of their magic, their resolve, and the ghosts of their past, Rosemary and Elias must decide what they are willing to lose. But in the world of Fae, nothing is freely given. Curses demand sacrifice. Love was never part of the deal. And the third book I have for you is called The Witch at the Edge of the Wood by Liz Delton. Valina has escaped the workhouse on the hunt for one thing, the witch who can grant her wish to live a normal life. Born with silver hair and noticeably pointy ears, she's passed from workhouse to workhouse since she can remember, shunned for her mysterious heritage. But the witch's cottage she finds at the edge of the wood is abandoned, and as soon as she starts making herself at home, someone else comes calling, a noble with a wish of his own. With the promise of his coin, she agrees to help him, when she starts noticing something strange about the cottage. Valina must find a way to help the noble and others who come calling, but can she help herself? And the last book I have for you is called A Kingdom of Souls and Shadows by Leslie O'Sullivan. Discover the magic that's been hiding in plain sight. Isla Dur, a brilliant but restless college professor, has always felt drawn to the mysteries of a world just beyond reach, where folklore and reality blur. Her obsession with tales of the Fae has shaped her academic life, but it's the vivid daydreams of enchanted battles and ghostly encounters that leave her yearning for more. When a cryptic message in her grandmother's will calls her to Ireland, Isla's world is turned upside down. There she meets Shinnok Lo, a handsome, enigmatic expert on local folklore. Their initial class sets the stage for an even greater revelation. A ghostly encounter at an ancient, haunted castle sends them on a quest that's been centuries in the making. Shinnok reveals a shocking truth. Isla is connected to the Fae world in ways she never imagined. Chosen by Finvera, king of the Connacht Fae, she must team up with Shinnok to fulfill an age-old prophecy. But as the line between folklore and reality fades, Isla must choose: embrace the dangerous, magical world calling to her, or return to the safety of the predictable life she's always known. The Fae are real. The quest is life or death, and Isla's journey is only just beginning. Okay, that's all for me this week. I'll see you next week on the Indie Connection. Bye.
I'm going to tell you why there's no one that's more suited to do this than CL Cannon. Okay, this particular episode was really difficult for her because of all the pronunciations and all of the dialect that she had to kind of absorb. So what she do? She goes and learns these dialects. She went to the authors and asked them how to pronounce these names, and that's the kind of thing that she does each and every week to make sure that authenticity and we're getting an accurate account of what is being said in these blurbs and everything like that. That's the kind of dedication that she has to this, and I could not thank her more for that. That's so lovely and so amazing of her to do that, and we are incredibly fortunate to have her do this each and every week, and I really, really do appreciate everything she's doing. And she did want me to publicly apologize to folks like David Green who live in Ireland if something was mispronounced. She wanted everybody to know that she tried and she looked it up and she tried her best, but otherwise she was really, really adamant about, that was something that she did on her own, and I really, really appreciate it, and that's fucking awesome. And so thank you, Miss Cannon, for what you do and how you do it, and thank you all for this great conversation, and let's continue it a little bit here and talk a little bit about, we're all kind of reeling from current events, even if it's not directly affecting us. It is in some way mentally, physically, maybe even affecting us, and financially affecting us. All these things that are important to us living our lives. And so when we're writing about these things and trying to convey our thoughts and how much of that is a struggle for you all, and how much of that do you have to fight to kind of to kind of weather that? Is it affecting you by writing about it as much as anything?
I think maybe it's affecting my ability to write more than anything. Current climates are absolutely mentally exhausting. The constant news cycle means that we never before have had such an opportunity to exist in the fire hose of current events. And like, I myself have had times where it's just been a challenge to disconnect from the current horrors to be able to be creative, more so than how it's affecting my writing. So yeah, I would just say everything makes it harder to be creative, even at a time where creativity is perhaps one of the most important things that we can do.
Yeah, I'm hating it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was gonna say same. I mean, I it affects everything, right? I forget to eat sometimes. How do you live in a world of such cruelty and have it not impact you? And in writing, I mean, I do still try to write, but I'm definitely not writing at the pace I was writing. I'm not writing at the consistency or the timing that I was writing, because there's times that I just need to shut down because I'm depressed, like I'm anxious and I'm depressed. And yeah, so I think that, I have really nothing else to say. It impacts every single waking moment and some sleeping.
I'm hating existing. I really am. I'm hating that I exist. I'm wishing that I've caught myself looking back at times where, whether it's fate, God, karma, whatever, has saved me from walking across the rainbow bridge and just wondering, why didn't I just move 2 inches to the left or make that idiotic decision? Because this sucks. This isn't the world that I want to live in. I've tried so hard throughout my life to sort of think that people as a whole were good. And I'm seeing that they're not. Like, I have not felt more detached from human nature any more than I have in the last few months. A friendship that I had for roughly 30 years, damn near a brotherhood, I ended. And it felt like a real gut punch. I happened to watch, because I try to stay updated on news so I at least know what to expect. But at the same token, it's killing me a little bit more every day. And there was a video of, the cowards that have to hide their face. And I saw one of them was a black man doing it. And I just legit felt like throwing up. And then I felt self-hate because I was a corrections officer at one time. So I felt so much self-hate. And then I'm hating going back to my book because there is no demigod fighting for us. Mm-hmm. It's just flawed people.
I think it's, for sure. It's difficult. I spend a lot of time, spending energies for other people, and willingly, right, to try to be there for them, to be a good co-belligerent in this fight, to listen and things like that. And it seems selfish sometimes to say, look, I've got to get this 1,000 words in because I've got to meet this deadline. And, when this person obviously needs someone to talk to or needs someone to listen to them. But I think, too, for myself, that there are a lot of things I want to write and say. And I don't want them to get drowned out in social media, right? I envy writers of the past who had, I think, more... we have worldwide opportunity, but fewer people, I think, would even read a lot of our stuff, right? Unless you're a well-known something. And it's frustrating, honestly, in terms of what I want to say that's not fiction, and frustrating in terms of the things I want to put into my fiction. Because I think fundamentally, it's not incorrect to say that what we're living through, and this is true of every writer, but what we're living through is going to drastically affect our writing. And if we're blessed to still be writing in 30 years, which I hope I am, we're going to look back on that person and wonder who they were, right? What were the things that they were writing about? So it's a struggle. I won't lie. And even though, and it affects me, what's going on obviously affects me with a lot of people around me. So, yeah.
Is there, it seems bleak, it seems hopeless, but is there some solace in trying to find hope for any of you in terms of your writing? Does your writing give you hope?
So one of the things that I have found that the only thing that helps combat the encroaching darkness is action. And for example, if I can put this other book out and it can take one reader and make them feel something with regard to what happens to the character that I am putting in this book as an insert to take out some of my particular political aggression on. Maybe that will have helped, but like, I think it's hard to say that writing, other than as like a bit of solace or escape, does enough to, like, it's not action. It's not going out and attending a protest or a sit-in. It's not donating to a cause. It's not standing with people in solidarity. In some ways it kind of can be, but I think it would be a hard comparison to say that writing fiction, especially given the time scale, like unless you're writing fast fiction to get something out there right now, but like I'm writing a novel that won't be published for 6 months. I don't feel like that's actionable enough to make me feel better about what's happening right now.
Yeah. And I feel like, you say solace. I don't feel solace, but I do feel obligation. So I think when I do sit down to write, it is out of obligation to, to, I guess, show history, to represent voices, to make sure people do know that they're heard. I think that's really why I still go at it, is because I feel like I am obligated as somebody, as a creative, to continue to tell these stories and to tell the truth and to represent. Even if it doesn't hit for 20 years, it doesn't matter. The fact is I'm putting it down for history.
Yeah, I think that, in Age of the Gods, the lead character, he's a demigod who is everything that I wish I could be, a Luke Cage type, someone that can't be hurt, someone that's strong, that can, fight back for those that can't. But one of the characters that in that story, he's a muse. He reflects hope. When he speaks, it's kind of like, a Martin Luther King type who, when he spoke, it united everybody that wanted justice. You know what I mean? And that, because we don't have that right now. I was watching a video of Hakeem Jeffries, and while the Democrats were walking out when they were trying to put into power this meek looking, sad little piece of crap who's a failed lawyer and looks like he couldn't think his way out of an open shower. He's sitting there and he's talking, and it's like, your words are falling on deaf ears. You might be able to communicate. Okay, yeah, it's great. You can talk for 24 hours straight at a time. What's it doing? Where we need this muse, this person whose words can cut through to anybody. And I think the reason why I continue to write on this story is because, A, I'm trying to put my brain into this fantasy world where something can be done. So I can ignore this world where it almost feels like nothing is going to be done, because the people that say they want to fight against are as ineffective as a sugar pill that's supposed to be painted blue with a V on it.
Your action needs to match your words.
Exactly. And there's some people that are trying. God bless them. They're trying. But the problem is they're not effective. A wrench can be a hammer, but it's not going to be as effective as an actual hammer. And so, yeah, I continue to try to write on this book because maybe, just maybe, something can come about. I mean, plus, Anne Frank, when she was writing her diary, she was just putting thoughts out. She wasn't trying. She was just doing. And I kind of feel like maybe my writing is just my way of doing. I'm not going to get struck by lightning and have superpowers. None of us are.
Just one of my favorite quotes is actually from it's a little Douglas Adams. So like we should trend toward action, but there is a certain amount of hang the sense of it and keep yourself busy also. So from Slarty Bartfast and the Hitchhiker's Guide. Like sometimes we're literally just doing this because it's the only thing that we can do to get us through the day, and that's okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not marching in protest. I don't have that. I've never been a political activist, and I'm the type of person where, that's just not what I do. It's not who I am. At the same token, I'm getting back into exercising because my worry is that someone is going to see me as a target or my wife as a target. And I'm trying to get myself back to a point where I can be a deterrent. So if one feckless, cowardly, dickless, mindless, hopeless piece of crap tries to cause harm to another human being in my vicinity, that I can just stand there and lock eyes with them and they leave them alone. That's the only thing that I have to contribute. So that's kind of why I keep writing, because that's my action.
Even though I will agree with Brian's point that we're not going to get superpowers, I still antagonize spiders as much as possible. It's like, hey, you going to bite me? You have some radiation in there? So,
yeah. I think I might even go to like a toxic waste dump and just like, let's just roll around in the green stuff, because you never know. Who cares if I end up like Adam West?
There's a really great quote, a really great comment in here, and it's kind of mirroring what I wanted to ask next. So I'm going to put it up here, and then I'm going to ask my question. Elizabeth says, as a reader and viewer, stories bring me hope. They help find the sense of community and optimism again. I felt that at the cinema watching the new Superman movie, for example. So my question is, we're all here because something affected us when we read it or saw it, and we wanted to do that, right? So like, there was a book, or there was a movie, or there was a song, something captured us that changed who we were, that gave us something, something that shaped us, and shaped us as artists, shaped us as people, maybe, changed perspectives. I don't know. But there's oftentimes you see these videos of people going, this book changed my life, this movie changed my life, this song changed my life. Are we in an era now where that is impossible? Do you feel like you might be able to? Are we aiming for that? I mean, that's a really lofty goal, obviously, and probably something that nobody ever aims for. But you know what I mean, right? It's is it impossible to do now because we're so polarized? We're so in a darkness right now.
I think it's possible for our writing to start conversations, and I think that is what we can. That is an attainable goal. Mm-hmm. If we're starting a conversation between 5 people, or 10 people, or 1,000 people, that obviously that depends on a lot of other factors. But if we're starting conversations, right? I think, as Ben mentioned, it could just change one person's opinion. That can be the pebble, to quote the Vorlons, that could be the pebble that starts the avalanche, right? Mm-hmm. And honestly, even not even just changing minds per se, but like, I think somebody mentioned earlier, empathy, I think, has gotten a lot of play the last decade. But I think it is a key idea, right? Because fundamentally, I think a lot of our problems come down to who we decide is in the circle of human. Who's human? You treat humans one way, you treat people who are not humans another way. And I think that as our empathy grows, that circle inevitably grows as well. And that is where, at least in my mind, that is where we change hearts, right? And change minds. I'm not saying I'll ever consider Yankee fans people, but one day.
I think Brian has the same. I think you stole Brian's line, because I think Brian was going to say, yeah, Cleveland Brown fans awful, but
Yeah, they're you know what? People in Cleveland and people in Baltimore are entitled to their absolutely wrong opinion. But Superman brought tears to my eyes for two reasons. One, it was the hope. The character Superman is a symbol of hope. That's what the S is for. And it made me happy to see Superman again. But then at the same token, I get terrified because I'm terrified to run into someone that says, well, I hated it because it was too woke. And then I have to turn into educator. Because, and look, if anyone says something is too woke, then they're an idiot and they should probably be thrown into the sun. I'll say that if some of my books can help some people and can help spark a conversation, great. I think it's wonderful. Do I think that anyone's going to read a book written by Brian Tan and say, oh, wow, this book changed my life? Probably not. And I'm okay with that because, look, my books are... I'm not the next great American author, okay? I'm probably not even the top 5 billion. But that's okay because I write because I like to tell stories. But if they can help people in a difficult time or just laugh a little bit, then I feel like I've done my job. And I think that for readers, a bunch of us have already said an obligation. Well, we're obligated to the people that do read our books, not just for entertaining them, but giving them that escape. And I think that a writer anyone that writes, whether you write books or you write film, we have a tremendous obligation to our fellow human to not just entertain. All right. Any monkey can entertain, but to touch that level of imagination, that is a gift. And it's a superpower.
That's why there's 10 Fast and the Furious movies. That's my hill I'll die on.
Wow, just take a dump on my point. Jesus. But you know what? I guess I would probably be.
They deserve to be in the lexicon, but
yeah,
they're trash in my personal opinion.
It's all about family.
I mean, you're not going to take a Maserati, between two buildings that are 5
No,
miles
you are
apart.
Definitely not. No,
It's just not going to happen. It's just not. There's no physics or laws that allow you to do that.
And damn sure aren't driving. You're not going to have your undercarriage in a non-paved area and just go like you're on a paved road. That is not the way physics works.
Yeah, sorry, everybody.
And an invisible man is not going to be driving a car with a child.
The Fast and Furious movies are my New York Yankees, okay?
I'm still trying to decide who was in part 10, who was driving with that little kid, because there was nobody in the front seat there was no one in the driver's seat.
It's a ghost car. It's a Google drive yourself car.
Oh, right. Well, that's why it wrecked.
I'm sorry, Julie.
Well, and I think, the Superman comment, I think, is relevant. It's kind of what I was talking about in the beginning about escapism. And I don't mean escapism as in not being aware, but when we have media that gives us hope, gives us joy, we're more functional to fight back. And I think part of the problem is we live in a very apathetic society, and apathy is on the side of the oppressor. We know that, right? We've seen that time and time again. And what it takes is, as a creative, is to find ways to reach people and to keep them motivated the right way. And sometimes that is through joy, being able to go to a movie and feel joy again. They come out and they're stronger to say, okay, now I'm ready to tackle this because I want my kids to feel that way. I want my neighbors to feel that way. I want people in another country to feel that way. And so I think we have to look at, they're both just as important. It's important for us to address those hard things, but it's also just as important to have things that allow people to breathe and find joy again and find strength again to go back out and fight.
Awesome.
Yeah, I agree.
So A.O. Mengo says, I don't write my books with the intent to change everyone's life, Although I do believe that art is interpreted differently based on the person and their own journey, I do know that one of my books carried me from a dark place in my life. I would imagine that someone else out there, may have had a similar or same experience reading it as I did writing it.
I mean, yeah. If I didn't write the first Bryce Creed book, I'm probably not sitting here because I'm either institutionalized or I've self-terminated. Bryce Creed was a reoccurring nightmare that I continuously had. And in the darkest point of my life where I kind of emotionally, I stopped being me. I became him. And I realized that was just another part of my personality protecting the most sensitive side of me. But I had to give him his own voice, his own universe, his own existence. Otherwise, because we couldn't coexist. So, yeah. And I think that in the world that we're living in now, the lack of apathy, the apathy, it brings us all, I think that in some way we all have our own form of mental illness. But at the same token, some of us are just better at dealing with it. But when that apathy is there, it exacerbates what we deal with because now we're using our energies for something else instead of using those energies to keep us functioning. And I think that's really what's so wrong. And this can't just be human beings. Like John Carpenter was on to something. That's why They Live didn't hit at the box office, because he was on to something and they decided to silence him by making the movie bomb. I stand on that to this day.
Fair enough. I'm curious how we feel about alternate history. Is there a place for that as well? And right now, where we are and how we're feeling, I mean, we've all kind of expressed a bit of darkness. Is alternate history something that you've thought about or explored, or is that just kind of copping out a little bit and not addressing this situation head on?
I don't think Ben answered the last question, right, Ben?
Which, yeah. So I'm gonna be you, Juliet. What was the question? Because I also missed that one.
Let's see what he said.
I'm not sure if I remember the question now.
I can also start us off on this one. That's fine. Because I did have a thought that. So there's a lot of popular fiction that takes alternate history, but it takes alternate history and makes it darker.
Yeah.
Like going back in history and killing Hitler feels good, but it doesn't actually do a lot for us. But if you take alternate history and make it highlight the current climate and say, what if this really happened the way that they want it to happen? And that's how you get the parable of the sower. That's how you get
100%.
The Handmaid's Tale. That's how in movies, that's how you get Don't Look Up. I just watched Don't Look Up and my partner was depressed for the rest of the day just because of how painfully accurate it was to see a piece of fiction that so closely mirrored what's happening today and made it worse. So it's a tough thing because I think the problem is the target audience for a lot of those books are not the people that need their opinions changed about the current climate. We don't have the current reigning bigots reading Margaret Atwood's work and changing their tune because, oh crap, we're really making Gilead. That's the problem is I can't tell whether or not alternate history is self-serving or is meant to be a cautionary tale, except no one who needs the cautionary tale is reading the book. So or they're just missing the point because I can't imagine a conservative person watching The Handmaid's Tale and being like, that could never happen. But they do, because clearly we haven't had a sea change of opinion about the rise of Christian nationalism in the United States. So I can't tell. It's a really hard question because we see examples of alternate history trying to point out the problems, and it just feels like all they're making for is really good media, but at the same time, like not touching the needle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree with Ben on that one too with alternate media. I think the problem is if you try to make it a more positive spin on what happened, then you're negating what people went through. And it's horrifying. So you can make it more horrifying, certainly. And I've seen that. What if Hitler didn't die? And what if he wasn't taken down? I've seen stuff like that as well. And I think, that is something to consider for future or for current events. So say, what if that didn't happen? Well, we're not living with Hitler, are we now? And now we're living with Trump. And the fact is, like, what if he gets his way with everything? That's a lot fucking scarier. Excuse my language.
No, you're not wrong. I remember watching the Boondocks, and there was an episode where if Martin Luther King didn't die, he was just in a coma, and how he woke up in the world that he was in. And the world, he had no place in the world, where he ended up going to Canada and living alone, detached from the movement and the community that he gave his life for. And I mean, it was funny, but at the same token, it's also sad, because I think when we look at alternate reality and alternative history, we look at the heroes of that time frame. And then we have to ask ourselves, would their message resonate today as it did before? Like in today's world, I don't think Martin Luther King's message would resonate the same. Hell, his message didn't start to resonate until after he was dead, and that's because his message was co-opted by the very people that killed him. Malcolm X, they try not to talk about. Malcolm X's would probably... he would probably have a place, but then the problem is people would only want to focus on early Malcolm, not later Malcolm. Early Malcolm, he talked about segregation, where later Malcolm, he was finally talking about brotherhood of all people.
Yeah.
So I think that it's another thing of what we do is, as far as, well, I don't want to say we, because I don't want to lump anyone with me, because I don't want anyone to feel insulted. So I'll say, well, I'm a fantasy peddler. Okay. So when we look at alternate history, alternate realities of the similar situation, it's another form of fantasy peddling to help us to make sense of the senseless that we're living with. It's either well, it's better this way than it would have been, or it's damn, why can't we have that?
Sean, you want to answer the question?
So two things. First, I remember after 9/11, someone did a comic, not mainstream, but mainstream enough, where some superheroes were able to avert the various tragedies. And I thought at the time, like, that's fine, right? This has been very traumatic for everyone. And a little bit of that wish fulfillment probably is a Band-Aid or a salve for folks. But in general, and I kind of apologize, I'm pretty cynical. For me, alternate history has to be very well done, right? So that if you take away the one, because most people think you take away the one bad thing and then the bad things don't happen. But it's almost never the case, right? And so for me, alternate history has to be a little bit more than wish fulfillment, because it doesn't make sense. And that could just be the science fiction writer. That could just be the cynic. I'm not sure. And if you're trying to make a better world from the past to, in many ways reflect the future or where we hope to go, there's just so much in the past. Like, people were trying to, they're mostly swallowed up by history, but people were trying to make the world a better place in almost every instance. But it's not as popular to be a abolitionist or be a German speaking out against atrocities against Jewish people and other folks. It's not. we know about Anne Frank, but we know about almost no one else unless you do a little bit of history, right? So it's not as easy just to change one of the dominoes and hope that everything turns out all smiles. And just as someone who is a big fan of Babylon 5, like 10 years ago, I was like, hey, folks, you should probably watch this show because there's things in the show that are happening, right? That are happening now that you should probably link the allegory to. And of course, nobody listens. If you haven't watched the show, most people don't. So I think it's difficult sometimes to get folks to look at alternate history and then find there be a revelation or a light bulb. Oh, I get it. Or alternate, potential futures as well. It's like, oh, I get it. And suddenly make the connections they need to make to change their minds about things.
And that leads me to the last question. Again, you guys are just so awesome. You guys lead me right into the foray. And so in writing about current events and writing history, is it better to be overt and just be out there and say what you have to say and do what you have to do? Or is there a power in being more textural, subtextual, veiling the actual thought and kind of subconsciously trying to get somebody to a place where you are making a point?
I mean, I think as bad as things are, we have to be really out there. And that's how I feel. I'm not subtle. You've read my stuff, I'm just going to call it as I see it. So, because I think the problem is subtlety right now, with people being bombarded with so much information all the time through social media, through whatever, subtlety is kind of lost on a lot of people. I think we got to kind of get in their face and be like, hey, pay the fuck attention. So at least that's my 2 cents on it.
Okay. Yeah.
We're not in the world of subtlety anymore. You can even look at it in our storytelling in films. I recently rewatched both Cocoon movies because I'm one of the few people that actually have both actual high quality DVDs of those movies. Look at the first movie and how the subtle storytelling, and then look at the second movie where it just goes. Yeah. We're not in a society of subtlety anymore. Subtlety left after like 1986, 1987. And it's just gotten worse.
I think there could be a case for subtlety. So for the record, like I generally put the B in subtle. So like I'm with the rest of the panel in that the message is important. And if the message is important, you cannot lose it. So at some point you're going to have to be obvious. Even if you start out slow and you start out subtle, you're going to have to give the reveal. And that, I joke that the villain in most of my books ends up being capitalism the whole time. You have to be obvious about things. But I would say there would be, again, if you're trying to subvert and you're trying to get people who wouldn't be your normal audience to understand something. Now, to be fair, you would have to find those people and get them to read your book, which is a different problem. But like, if you were,
we'll tackle down the road.
Yeah.
At some point in the show.
If you were crafting a story to bring the reader along and get them on your side with enough subtlety that when the reveal comes, you give them a light bulb moment, that could be great. But again, those people are not our audience. And so you're not going to get them to read your, I'm not going to get people to read my series that has openly queer characters to change their bigotry. It's not going to happen. So yeah, I think there could be a case for it, but it's a little fantastical in that, like, it is more likely that I would get a job offer from the devil himself, like my main character, than I would get a bigot to read my book and change his mind.
Can I throw a middle finger at the bot that's in the chat as well? Who gives a damn about
acknowledge it? Don't even acknowledge
it.
All right, fair enough. But no, I think that if you write something that has something to say, it's it's lost on the death of ignorance. I mean, how many people look at well, I can't remember who the politician was, but he really, with all of his chest, said, when did Rage Against the Machine get political?
What?
If you have something to say, what you have to say is lost on the ignorant. They can't see it. They can't hear it. Matter of fact, what was it in 12 Angry Men? He can't hear you.
Yeah.
He'll never hear you.
Yeah, that's a great example. And I think Star Trek is another one. People are like, oh, Star Trek's suddenly woke. It's like,
it's been that way since 1968.
Yeah. So I think, again, cynically, I think I'd say subtlety is, we had a chance at subtlety and it didn't work. But I think a smarter answer is now a combination of subtle and unsubtle. A 1-2 punch might be effective. I'm thinking in specific genres. I'll just call it out: military sci-fi, which is not the most progressive, despite some characters in the past. It's not the most progressive of genres, right? But I think that if you're going to, and I'm working on a couple pieces, put the idea of subtle to the test, or that 1-2 punch to the test, that's a genre you could do it in, right? You might be able to, with queer or, aliens are always the allegory, but maybe we're not shooting them up and blowing them to the smithereens in the story, right? I think that's an opportunity as one example, right? Writing stories in military sci-fi that are show a more accurate, I think. I always call it the non-libertarian version of the military, which with people who are real soldiers who have real opinions and aren't a monochromatic group. That's just one example. I'm sure there are other genres out there where you could start to insert characters who don't fit the mold, who are making commentary on current events in history, right? That's another big one for, in military sci-fi, people love to bring up literally in the text of the books, oh, here's this historical figure, or here's this historical battle, or here's this historical thing. And inevitably, it's not an accurate version of events, right? So it's a place where you can put in accuracy. You can talk about things that make people uncomfortable, and they'll get frustrated because I've literally watched them get frustrated. They're like, oh, this is a great book, but the wokeness in it. And I'm like, I kind of laugh. I'm like, yeah, you're having an existential crisis. Welcome to the 21st century, dude. So I think there are spots where it can still work if you're good, or if you're courageous, maybe. I don't know.
I think it would have to be courageous. Like just to jump in real quick, because you brought up military sci-fi, because this works both ways. For the record, like, I'm super happy with the diversity in the panel as far as like how we feel about the current climate. Military sci-fi specifically has a bunch of bigots in it. Like, just gonna say that for the audience, like, it goes both ways. Just as much as you have our woke nonsense, there are plenty of authors that are putting their bigoted ideology into their sci-fi and fantasy books, and it's really painful to see. But again, in the do politics influence our writing? Yeah, and both sides of it do.
Yeah, and you hear people say all the time, like, well, don't make it political, or I don't get into politics. It's simply not true, right? Because we're immersed in it. So, like, the fact is, we're not trying to reach the bigots, because if that happened, that'd be amazing. We're trying to reach the fence riders, right? The people that are kind of easily swayed either direction. We're trying to sway them this way, to get them to understand, to be more compassionate, to be more open-minded. And that is the masses. Like, that is where our power comes from. Like, the bigots, they're bigots. And yes, they're putting their stuff out there. They have no shame in it whatsoever to put whatever they want out into the world on anybody's post and anybody's media. It doesn't matter. So our goal is really to reach those people that might be influenced by that, right? Because there are people that they hear and they go, well, is that true? did you research it? Like, did you do your own research? So we become their researchers in a way to try to give them the information that they need to have.
Yeah. I think that, and what's funny is the bigots, there are bigots that are just outwardly bigots, but then you got the most dangerous bigots, the people that don't realize that they're bigots.
Yeah.
Part of the reason why, like, I got off of Facebook and even on Blue Sky, I try to be careful with posts I comment on, is because if you say anything that is remotely dissenting on something, here come people that they probably see themselves as freedom fighters and I'm woke, I'm a freedom fighter. And really all they are people that just want to attack anything that isn't them.
Yeah.
Those are the bigots that don't even realize they're bigots. Case in point, I'm going to use something that actually just happened. There's an account on Blue Sky called Pittsburgh Scanner, and I'm on there just to know, if there's something going on. And someone there was a post about someone who picked up a cigarette off the ground in Oakland and smoked it and reported having hallucinogenic effects. And I just said, why would anyone pick up a cigarette off the ground and just random cigarette off the ground and smoke it? And then, someone's, and a couple people said, well, the homeless people do that, blah, blah, blah. And I said, you know what? You're right. I didn't even think about that. You're absolutely right. You never think about it unless it happens to you. But then I had some person, haven't you heard of drug addiction? Listen here, freedom warrior. And I even said, you might want to continue reading the conversation before you comment.
Mm-hmm.
It's really strange, and I look at those people as bigots as well. And you see them in media as well. Case in point, look at the movie Cruel Intentions. The so-called upscale yuppie but woke woman flips out because her daughter is interested in a black man. And her retort when he said, I would think that in these times you could see past. Don't talk to me about that. I gave money to Colin Powell. It's like, well, that puts me in my place. And it's just absolutely wild to me how this happens. It just really is. And I think that at the end of the day, it's I don't know, it's hard. And I know that probably had nothing to there was a point in there somewhere. I swear that there was, but when you look at the military fiction, look at how things are done. Even if you don't read the book, look at the film Starship Troopers and how it works on the propaganda and the othering of everything, and how they looked at Rue McClanahan's character. She was crazy when she said, yeah, the bugs are actually generationally superior. And everyone's like, no one's paying attention because they're just working on ripping the guts out of the thing.
All right. This was an awesome conversation. You guys were fantastic. I loved it so much. Thank you so much for sharing and being forthright and everything. Let's go over what we've got going on, because we got more great programming for you all week long here at Go Indie Now. This week, it's a little lighter, but it's really good stuff, and you should check it out. Monday night, I'll be live with the Spotlight on the Multiverse. I have Amber Hasford and A.W. Flick with me, and it's going to be a wonderful conversation. And then Tuesday is the show that it should have been out yesterday, but shit happens and just didn't get it done in time. So I'm putting it out on Tuesday, which is our Saving the Seat episode. This is a really good episode. Brian Tan can attest to that.
Oh yeah.
We talk about something that is we really love, and I won't give you away which one is the one that we really love, but there is a movie in there that we really had a lot to say about, and it was really good. So you'll want to check that out on Tuesday. That'll go out Tuesday at 8 p.m. Eastern, and then be available throughout the week. And then Friday, we have a really awesome opportunity to really experience what the Multiverse Convention is really about, because our Learn Track director, Kenneth Broom Jr., he is going to do a presentation as what would happen at the convention on the Learn track. He has made many presentations at the Learn track at Multiverse, and this is a really cool thing that Multiverse does, where they take speculative fiction and turn it into an academic conversation, and this is an example of what that is. So you'll be able to experience that live on Friday night as we bring that to you, and then on Saturday, Bob Magoo's back, exposing the numbers of what we do and how we do it, with Charles McFall as his guest. It's a really great conversation. Gets really in depth about, where our money really goes as indies. And so you'll definitely want to check that out, because there's some really good information about that aspect to it on that show. That'll be premiering Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern as well. Let's go around the room, tell everybody where they can find you. And Juliet, start us off, please. Let me get out of this screen here. Sorry. Go ahead, Juliet.
Yeah, so you can find me at AboveTheRainCollective.com. And I have some events coming up, and I'm going to be at Lit Inc. in Chattanooga in the first week of September, I believe. And then here locally, I'll be in Butterfly Bash about mid-August, and then the Aqua Storytellers Festival end of August.
Butterfly Bash. That sounds awesome. All right, everybody go check out Juliet. All right, Brian.
Well, you can find me on Blue Sky at author Brian Tan. That's where I'm most active at. I don't really talk about much of anything. You can also see my regular appearance here on Go Indie Now, and
on Tuesday night.
On Tuesday night. And yeah, so check it out. You can also, if you're looking for any work, if you're looking for some sci-fi, urban fantasy, or erotic crime thriller, just search my name, Brian Tan, on Amazon. All 5 of my novels are available in print, ebook, and Kindle Unlimited. So check them out.
Awesome. Ben?
Yeah. So you can find me at benshankman.com, and that links out to all my socials. I'm on Blue Sky, Instagram, Facebook, etc. My urban fantasy series, currently at 3 books, is out. Ebooks on Amazon. Print is available pretty much everywhere. And the second audiobook that I narrate and produce myself just dropped earlier this month. So please go check them out.
Awesome. That's awesome. All right, Sean?
This little cat is everywhere. Social media is that. You can find my writing at thewickedboys.com. Obviously, I'm here for Zero Means You're Dead, Hit the Dice, and This Week in Indies. And I'll be here next weekend. Spoilers. I'm sort of not rebranding, but I'm sort of like changing where I'm going to be with social. So over time, I am on Blue Sky, but you can't get there from my website yet. I'm not sure why. It's just inertia. In the future, you'll see more. I'll have more social stuff. I'm on Instagram too. So, that's it.
All right. Well, everybody, this is Going Now. Congratulations, you found us. Thank you so much for being here. Like, subscribe, do all the things you do, comment on the video. Let us know your thoughts on the subject. We would love to hear it. And obviously, we would always, if there's a question you have for the panel or anything like that, and you want to put it in the comments, please do that. And I will make sure that the panelists go back and take a look at that and answer it if they'd like to answer it. But other than that, we are headed down the road where we're going to be taking a little break here very soon. But we've got a lot of stuff still to go and a lot of great shows, including next Sunday, as Sean and I close the door on the mid-season of This Week in Indies. We're going to reminisce a little bit and talk a little bit about the future of the show. So you all want to go and check that out. That's be Sunday at noon. Otherwise, like I said, it's always time to go indie now. Bye, everybody.